Welcome to Your Café, powered by Latinos Styled. My name is Jacqueline, your British Latino host, and today we're going to be talking about politics and being Latino in the UK. So I am joined by Angela, Carlitos, and Dr. Carlos Cruz. First of all, I guess to start off with, tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Mi nombre es Angela. They know me as well as the Bonita Chola in social media. I'm a social organizer. I'm a unionist representative of my sector and a domestic worker.
Amazing.
Hi everyone, I'm Carlos. For today's episode, I'll be Carlitos because tengo un tocayo aquí al lado. In terms of the political sphere, as a collective, we've been organizing for many, many years. Just trying to get as many people in our community involved in not only cultural sense, but also political sense. So not just talking about like the cultural aspects of things, but also like the economic side of things. We started Movimiento Jaguar Despierto. We were part of Wretched of the Earth, and we organized with a lot of initiatives throughout the years. I've stepped back a little bit now, but always happy to get involved with anything as well.
Cool. I'm Carlos. Work as a teacher at Queen Mary University, visiting lecturer for a couple of US universities as well. And I do work in the community like these guys, and have done so for quite a few years, particularly now with Anticonquista, which is like a big platform, not just here in London, but in the US as well. We have quite a big following, and the whole thing with Anticonquista is about like raising awareness, political awareness, but also raising funds for grassroots organizations back home. So we've raised like hundreds of thousands of pounds to send back to grassroots organizations. Yeah.
Incredible work. Before we get into, I guess, the more sort of serious conversations that we'll probably be having today, my first question is tea or cafe?
I've answered that before.
You've done this before, but tell us again, remind us.
But I'm scared she's going to hit me.
What are you going to say?
Fair, obviously.
Oh my God. Outrageous.
Yeah, but go on then. What about you?
That's the same reaction I get from everyone, because
I'm quite surprised at you, actually.
As a Colombian, when you say you don't drink coffee, you always get that kind of reaction. I like tea.
But do you like coffee?
I like coffee. I like the taste of coffee, but I can't drink it.
So you
Why?
Yeah, something.
Oh, that's crap.
Yeah. That's what I can't drink it.
That doesn't happen. Yes, that's not. Oh, come on, that's a myth.
No, trust me. I'm
No,
not
I get
taquicardia.
it. Yeah.
We're softies. Like, no, coffee, dark and bitter.
Oh, okay.
Like the Brazilian one.
I like it needs to be bitter. Like, this is like water.
Oh.
This coffee is like water. It's like, proper coffee. And like, I think so this is as well like, the coffee is supposed to be like this, the cups.
I don't know, Daniela made that one.
This is like big coffee. It's just okay. But no, yeah. Black coffee.
Okay. So first question that I wanted to kind of go into is, what does being political as a Latino mean to you in the UK? Is it about community? Is it about culture, identity, or is there something else completely?
All right, for me, being political is I wouldn't say British Latino, by the way. Maybe we can get into this. I wouldn't consider myself British. I'd say I'm Latino, Colombian, maybe a Londoner. I feel like this country, we're here as migrants, as exiled from our countries, taking into account colonialism and imperialism. I don't want to take on the identity of the Western world that has forced many of us to come to these countries. So yeah, I would say I'm Latino. And what does politics mean to me? Yes, it's cultural, it's about community, but importantly for me, it's about material, tangible movement, tangible change. What can we do? In terms of the work that we do, like Angela, as part of a union that's trying to get better work conditions for our community, for cleaners and so on, or better wages, so tangible, very tangible things, and also about power. Power here is difficult because obviously we'll get into this. We don't have a lot of political power here, but we do have political power back home, or we can fight for political power back home. As a Colombian, with a progressive government that we have now, I do feel like, you know, we've been part of that, pushing for that change and achieving power. And again, yeah, power is about material things.
I would just, I would say the same point. So for me, being political and Latino, first step is understanding why we're here in the first place, understanding our history so we can move forward, and then understanding our material, the material side of things, our class. So when we arrive in this country, you know, most of us will be doing menial jobs. We're automatically part of like the peasant class, the working class, and then understanding how we can gain power and better our material existence as a community and make things better for ourselves. As you said, like Angela working in the trade union, when I was in teaching, I was part of the union as well, and just trying to help, you know, our aunties and uncles have better lives, as well as the younger generation. And then thirdly, being Latino and British, I think the political side is showing solidarity with, because we're Colombian, like non-Colombians. So when something's happening in Chile or Argentina or Bolivia, we show out for these people, which you don't really see much back home a lot of the time, but you do see that in the diaspora. So something happens in, you know, like when Correa came to speak here, I wanted to go see him talk, or something happens back home, we all want to show solidarity and show that we're united as a community here in the UK. So that's what it means to me. What about you?
First, I'm not British Latina. I'm not. And I don't want to be, because they will never let me be British. Anyways, I'm not a Caucasian white. I think so. Like when we say British Latino, it's like, okay, we want to call ourselves that, but are we going to be allowed to be that? They will never see us that way. They will, yeah, first. And yes, I'm from Latin America, but I identify myself because my family identifies themselves as indigenous. So being political is something that I cannot avoid here or wherever I go. I cannot avoid being political. Politics has got through my whole lineage and history. No, so I think so. Like it's important in this when we're in the diaspora and in back home, just to have a political identity, like to understand what's going on and to carry, as we say, like the three of us, I think so. We think very similarly. Like politics is not only about your position, but it's about, for me, how I live it, what I can do, how I can help, how I can change and make real changes that I can see and feel and enjoy.
Incredible. I think what you touched there, you know, in terms of it's part of who you are and I guess your identity, that's really important, because I don't think people realize that, you know, depending on how you identify or sort of who you are or where you come from, it's something that's unavoidable and it's just deep rooted in everything that you do. Coming here, I guess, and sort of working with the community that you do now, I think a lot of people don't realise or have maybe sort of not spoken outwardly. I know that you guys do on occasion, but I think, you know, a lot of the community don't speak about sort of the discrimination that we face as a community here. And I know that's a lot of work that you have done. What have you witnessed, or what are the type of experiences that people are going through here in the UK that you're sort of, you know, working to empower or better for them?
Normally in the union, you will see that like a lot of people don't speak English. And because they don't speak English, they cannot access to the rights and resources. So one of the things that the union does is we have free English classes twice a week for the union members and non-union members. Anyone can join. I have witnessed working with youth in the bus in Elephant and Castle, and people shouting at us and say like, don't speak English, or shh, because we're loud and we laugh. And like, it was a youth group. We were walking around Elephant and we were working with that youth group. But yeah, I have witnessed a lot of things, but not only in the daily basis, but as well in the institutional spaces as well. And in the institution, how the administration goes, like no access to NHS if you don't have like papers, if you're undocumented. There is a lot of levels of like discrimination in this country, but it's constant.
And what are we sort of, what should we be doing more, I guess, as a community to, I guess, not only raise awareness, there's obviously sort of, you know, workshops and talks that you can do. Is there anything else that we can be doing, I guess, to work on that a little bit better, to bring it out to the open?
I think so. Maybe stop discrimination within eating because our community is very discriminates a lot within the community. Like, you know, if you're a Black person, if you're a Black Latino, if you're an indigenous Latina, if you're like, I don't know, like a trans Latina, like there is a lot of discrimination. I think so. We need to start working within us and then around us as well.
Yeah. And Carlos, you obviously work within sort of schools and, well, universities and having these talks. Do you see kind of a shift where people are understanding a little bit more or open to understanding?
I think because I teach politics and politics at Queen Mary University is, you know, quite a progressive department. So it's difficult because a lot of the kids that go there or young students that go there are already a little bit political. So it's difficult to judge in terms of all of society. I don't know, like, I feel like, yeah, I don't know. It's difficult for me to judge because the people that I teach are obviously interested in politics and are almost always very progressive. So I think, you know, in terms of the wider community or our community, I don't know, yeah, I agree with Vankel. I think we have a lot of work to do. I think those of us who were raised here have some understanding because we've experienced racism and discrimination and stuff, so we have some understanding of it instinctively. But I do think there has to be more. We have to do more in terms of being proactive.
You feel a sense of responsibility.
Oh yeah,
That's what I feel. That's what I was gonna say. I feel like because we were born here, we've got like a certain level of privilege that people that migrated here don't have, which is why I feel like I've decided to like sort of give back a little bit and help others out.
And I was just gonna say, I don't know, like we already do this, right? We've been doing some levels of this, like I guess raising political consciousness in our people. Like what can we do? You know, unite. I think a lot of the time maybe we focus on, you know, being recognized here, which is cool. But I think more importantly, what can we do for ourselves? You know, rather than looking for British society to accept us as migrants or not be racist to us, what can we do for ourselves? And, you know, unite ourselves, build a stronger community so that, you know, it doesn't matter what British or, you know, what white people or whoever else thinks about us. What do we think about ourselves, and you know, how can we build our community so that it's difficult for them to discriminate us without us coming together and fighting back, like with the trade unions, or with other groups that might, you know, push back.
I guess one of my questions, because you spoke about progressiveness, and I think that also comes from a school of thought, and everyone has obviously different sort of schools that they kind of, I guess, work around. With differing views, do you find that everyone, I guess, comes to one understanding of what progressiveness means for Latinos here in the UK? Or do you think there's also a differing view, if they're right wing or left wing, with what that means for us as a community?
Probably speak for all of us, so tell me if I'm wrong. We want the whole community, no matter who's in the community, to progress and do better, right?
Yeah.
And this has been put into action with the new, obviously we're Colombian, so I can talk about like the Colombian embassy and consulate, etc. With this new regime that's in Colombia now, so with Petro and this whole progressive agenda that he's pushing, the embassy is actually opening its doors more to the community and is actually helping, isn't it, organizing with the community or help organizing that. Before that, they would only open their doors to big business. They wouldn't really deal with us, right? Yeah. If you had a query about the local community, the Colombian community, that you wanted to like help or do something, it was really hard to get help from the embassy and from the consulate at the time. And the ambassador would only deal with like moneyed interests. So big business, anyone wants to start a business in Colombia, anything like that. So you see that tangible shift straight away, where just by being progressive, you don't want just a small group to do well, you want everyone to do well, if that makes sense.
Just to quickly add to that as well, in terms of the embassy, and the Colombian embassy and the consulate. Now that there's a progressive government, as you're saying, that they've opened the doors, but everybody benefits from it. It's not just the left. And the left, I think, we have to praise them, or praise ourselves sometimes, for pushing for it, for pushing for that change. But if you go to the consulate now, like, they open the doors to whoever, even right wingers actually, go to the consulate, have their events, have the spaces open for them to do their events and stuff. So yeah, everyone benefits from progressive politics.
And what about other embassies or consulates that you probably might have worked around?
It works exactly the same. Like, I was born in Argentina. My family is from Bolivia, so I normally move around those two embassies. And it happens exactly the same when, like, the right wing wins now in Argentina with Milei. The embassy, like, closed doors. Like, you don't have a cultural space to go and ask, or like, at all.
I think
But
before,
yeah, back in the days, in the last regime, like, it was different. It was more engaged with the community, with the Argentinian community or the Bolivian community in the time. But now it's just like impossible.
I think in the organization space, when back in the days, took like 10 years ago, maybe a bit more, when we were trying to organize. I remember Cuban,
Yeah.
people from the Cuban embassy helping us, Ecuadorian one at the time as well. Colombian one was just never there to be seen. But now things are changing. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to bring up Venezuela and Cuba.
Yeah.
About like us doing things for ourselves, from our own point of view, thinking about ourselves, rather than for the Western gaze, and on that point of how the Western world sees Venezuela, considering what's happened recently, how the Western world sees Cuba. But actually, they're the ones, as you guys are pointing out, they're opening spaces for. They've always opened spaces for us to be there, to show solidarity with one another. If you guys have an event, come use Bolivar Hall. Or
Yeah.
whatever it is, so. And another important thing is not just the governments, Colombian government, or it's also grassroots activists that push for that. It's not like this benevolent person or people up top, letting us use the space. No, we push and we open up those spaces, and it's thanks to the work of progressive leftist activists, grassroots activists, Colombians who I think are almost invisible a lot of the time, like my parents and Carlos's parents as well, who have pushed for many decades to fight for our rights, fighting for us to have spaces, and go unrecognized, but people are enjoying the fruits of it now.
Yeah.
For example, we had the consulate and stuff.
I think one of the points that you all raised was which I found interesting, is the shift in, obviously, whatever happens in America, for example, has then had a trickle effect onto, being able to use Bolivar Hall, for example. And I guess inadvertently we're being affected by whatever politics is happening on the other side of the world, and we kind of feel it a little bit more deeper because this is where we are and sort of the grassroots of the UK. How do you now sort of view that global conversation that's happening around Latinos? It's obviously something that has now piqued people's interest, not just because of, for example, Bad Bunny, but you've got things happening in the States that are inadvertently directly affecting us in the way that we're perceived here in the UK. Have you seen a shift of how we're perceived here in the UK? I guess is my first question.
I think so. We got more recognized as a community.
Positive or negative?
It depends. It depends of who you talk. It depends of who you talk. I think so. There is not like positive or negative. It's just like we exist all of the sudden.
Yeah.
In media, especially in media, but it's all related to music or cultural news here. When Trump won the election, it wasn't that much as who voted or not, even though that Latin American people vote a lot for Trump.
Yeah.
A lot. But yeah, there is not too much news in the general media here about Latin America in general.
We just heard it a little bit more.
We just
during that
basically
time.
we pop up and we exist now because music, and that's it.
Yeah. Do you think it's just the music, or do you think that also sort of things that are happening in the US, for example, yes, the music side, but then there was a whole, I guess, spike of interest because of what was happening with ICE, for example, and who it was directly affected. Even though ICE is for anyone that was immigrant there, it's not just Latinos, but obviously given the diaspora that we do have over there, do you think that that also had a part in sort of being, I guess, recognised here a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, thinking back, it's like we became a meme. Like, do you remember people, like, a lot of friends like sending me, you know, when the whole Donald Trump thing, people started sending me memes of like, you know that song, I Will Vote for Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, oh, are these your people? Like, is this your people, yeah? It's like, oh, Latinos, vote. You didn't see that?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God you didn't see that. Oh my God.
I saw it.
It was so embarrassing.
It was very
and apparently the woman that
embarrassing.
made that song, her husband got deported now.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Which is, I don't know, is it karma? I don't know.
I'm the type of person that believes that human nature in its essence is good. And personally, I've received a lot of like people that when we talk about stuff like this, showing a lot of empathy towards Latinos in the States. That's just my personal, I guess, the people I hang around with and stuff like that. You
I was
know,
going to say, is that people you hang around
Yeah.
with? Because obviously, I think we've all got quite a similar way of thinking when it comes to
Yeah.
politics and sort of, you know, what's right for the people. But there's obviously other people that are pro-Trump. And I said it in my last episode, you know, I have one family member that is pro-Trump who lives in the States and is from a Trump state. With, I guess, that side of school of thought, do you feel that there's any kind of, I guess, difference?
well, the pro-Trumpers that I know are all Latinos, which I find sad, to be fair. And when we like, sort of bring up this sort of thing that's been going on with ICE and stuff like that, they're like, yeah, but they're criminals. They refuse to see like the children that are being deported and being held, even though there's evidence there for everyone to see, or the way they're treated. No, but these criminals need to be deported. Bro, you're Colombian yourself. Yeah, but I know those people that live in the States. I know these 3-4 drug dealers from New York. I know they need to be just like, they have no sense of empathy. I think the key word there is empathy. Some people have empathy towards other people in worse situations. Some people don't.
I think this goes back to what we were saying at the beginning, that even though we've done work and we're doing work, there does need to be, you know, some raising of the political consciousness of a lot of our people that will have those opinions. Not just being Trump, but like Colombians who are super Uribistas or
Fighting reform.
I think it's important too. I had this conversation recently, like making the comparison Trump and Uribe, because sometimes it gets lost. Sometimes that gets lost. People here, if you support Trump, I think often you're like, you know, it's quite a liberal country, so you're looked down on. So people won't express that opinion necessarily. But in Colombia, it's always been like, yeah, where would you like, and so what? So I think it's important to make that
There's
comparison.
a correlation there.
Like Uribe is the same as Trump. The
I
same.
would say the same with Milei.
Milei, yeah.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, I guess because maybe the language barrier, but it's also obvious the policies that Trump has, and sometimes they don't see the policies that someone like Milei or someone like Bukele might have, and they don't see the comparison. Yeah, you're completely right. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're a migrant or a person of color or, you know, a Latino or not Latino. If you don't have the political knowledge or you're politically deconstructed to understand, like a person that has a political knowledge and deconstruct themselves politically will understand that Trump was not a good election, period. Or Milei was not a good election, period. But again, we go back to like, we need to start doing the job for us, for our community. Like for me, it's more important that to be accepted if I'm British, Latina or not. For me, it's more important like to work with the community, the politicize my community, make sure that my community go to the embassy and then roll the signs to vote. Like make sure that they know the days, that they need to go there, that they can vote, you know, online, they can vote like, you know, by post. Is that for me is like an action that is tangible and it will bring change. But like if we don't politicize and deconstruct our community, like, well, that's a step one for me.
Yeah, and I think it's important not to be judgmental as well, because we can also, like, some of us who start learning and, you know, becoming politicized can also be judgmental and be like, oh, that person's so dumb, like, why are they supporting Trump or Leave?
No, it's just to understand why as well.
So yeah, so it's about us, you know, being, as you were saying, empathetic. Like,
Yes. No, but I understand it's like it's with everything. Like in the union, you have a lot like of like aunties and uncles, and like low-key, they're very homophobic, for example. And you just it's because they didn't have the information. They've never been around like gay people. They never been around trans people.
Growing up, I was very homophobic.
And then like now after like a lot of talks, a lot of hanging out and sharing, they go like, oh no, that's nice, that's okay. They go, hijita, ¿estás feliz? Yeah, I'm so happy. She loves me. Like, that's it. But it's just to be empathetic enough to understand that a lot of people didn't have this opportunity, these resources, and especially the time to sit down and deconstruct themselves. Because it's a leisure to sit down and read a book and learn about politics. Like, we're talking about people that maybe just they sleep maybe 4 hours and they have like 3 jobs.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our people don't even realize that they have the lived experience. They just take it for granted, if that makes sense. So that's why I said at the beginning of our conversation that being political for me is understanding what happened in the past, because it just repeats itself all the time. So, for example, what's happening in Iran at the moment, like people from Latin America, even though Iranian people might feel like this is the first time it's ever happened and they feel alone and they don't know like what to look to, we've experienced
The
that.
shared experience.
We have a shared experience, which is why we are standing in solidarity with the Iranian people, if that makes sense. And you might have younger Latinos in the UK at the moment that are maybe swaying towards the right wing, but they don't understand why their parents arrived to the UK in the first place. They don't understand that they were running from paramilitaries. If they were to learn that, it might skew their opinions maybe.
Do you think that there's a disconnect, obviously, with whatever's going back home to their, obviously, experiences here? So for them, sort of their active political stance is whatever's happening here, with a bit of knowledge of there. But I don't know if you've noticed that when it comes to voting, for example, are the younger generation voting, or is it sort of the older generations that maybe had that lived experience there?
I think we vote more for stuff that maybe from my experience, but I always see you or your family when it comes to Colombian voting in the embassy and voting for stuff that's happening back home. We're always pushing people to go vote and stuff like that. But I think that might be more our generation. Whereas I think interacting with the younger generation, so I help a lot with the younger generation, talking about going back to helping our people gain material wealth and bettering themselves materially. I help younger people to gain access to higher paid jobs, and that's what I work. So I interact with a lot of younger Latinos and stuff like that. I help them do CV reviews, help them prep for interviews and stuff like that. And a lot of them are disconnected from what's going on back home, but you can't really blame them because they're now second, third generation Latinos. So there's naturally going to be a disconnect. However, they are more interested in what's going on here with reform.
Yeah.
They might not link that to what's happening back home, though, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They might not even know that fascismo exists in Latin America. Like, and it's not my place to teach them. I'll never I just plant seeds in for them to go research it in their own time. Like we were saying, through experience from when we were younger, when we used to talk down to people, we learned that that's the worst thing you can do. The best thing for you to do is just give them information and let them make their own opinions. And
You spoke about trial and error, and then you just mentioned that you used to speak down on people. I remember, Carlos, you had a very strong voice when it came to sort of your stance and things that you believed in. Do you feel that you've had to change that then, because
100%.
I guess the way it's received wasn't the same?
Yeah, but we were immature as well, though. We were really, really young. Like, obviously, we've got more than 20 years experience speaking to people and speaking to the community, speaking to young people. But we made lots of mistakes back in the day.
Yeah.
People talk about it.
It's also made worse by, like us not being empathetic and actually not just, we don't want to be patronizing either. Now, like we've matured, we don't want to be patronizing. Like, people have lived experience, and we should have a conversation rather than talk down on people or like they're empty vessels. Like, we're here to, and I say this to my students at university too. Like, even though they're 18, 19, 20 years old, and I'm the teacher. But I told them, like, we're here as a research group. That style of teaching where I'm at the front here teaching you guys like you're empty vessels and imparting information on you. That's old school, and I think we need to apply that to our community too. Like approach our community in a way that you know, listen to me, but also I want to come and listen to you. Like, what do you guys want to? You know, how can we build together?
Yeah. Social media obviously plays a big part in sort of, we've seen it's changed votes, it's changed the way, you know, political history has gone. Do you feel that there's a lot more work to do in terms of putting, not necessarily the right voices, but different sort of, I guess, voices forward so that everyone can make a choice politically of what they sort of stand? I mean, is there a need for more engagement from our community in general?
I was about to say with the social media thing, and going just quickly also going back to how we used to speak to people as well. That also has to do with social media because that's the kind of thing that gets liked and videos and so a lot of the content that we produced back in the day was that kind of content that was like, you know, that Facebook post or that Twitter post that you're like, you know,
Rage baiting. They call it rage baiting.
or rage baiting, but not just that, but like you're on a high horse. But like you're on a high horse, right? Like,
yeah.
Like,
it's like if
I
you don't
know
think this way, then you're dumb.
Yeah, and I know this, and like, why do like that kind of attitude, which is what we. I'm not gonna say you guys, me.
Yeah.
I would engage with. So yeah, you see, you have to learn, and if your heart's in the right place, and you learn from it, and you actually want to learn and do things differently so that they work, because that doesn't really work. It might get you like a few thousand likes on Twitter or whatever, but really in terms of building community, really, that in the long term doesn't work.
What could we be doing differently, I guess, as a community to get people to engage more?
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, because I got no presence of you as well, anti-conquista.
I mean, as
No, I left social media.
Okay.
Like maybe 2 years ago. I'm not doing Instagram or like social media at all. I have a
Used to, though.
yes, but not anymore because I choose. It was a time that I have a lot of energy and I have to choose to do social media or to do work in the community here. And I was okay. I don't have time for both, so I left social media and I just work with the community.
Yeah, so you're more present, involved.
Yeah, because I think so. It was just like I can choose, and I feel that when I started doing political social media, there were not much indigenous people doing it. So that was that space. So I did that. But then after a couple of years, there were more people doing it, more indigenous people doing like social media. So in my head was like, there is more people doing it. I don't have to do it. That's fine. I don't need to be the person doing this when I can put my energy and capacities somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I was doing organizing and activist work and social media. So I was okay. I just want to do this now in the community here in London, and that was that. But when I post, yes, it has a lot of engagement. But
I used to share a lot of your posts.
oh, that's so sweet.
No, but I think the usefulness of social media is simplifying complex information for anyone to understand. That's why it's easy to just share it, right?
I think it can be used if you use it properly, and you know, like anti-conquista, I'd say is a good example of that. Like we've learned not to be like on a high horse and talking down to people.
Yeah.
And informing people, and at the same time collecting funds from people to send back home. Like it serves a practical purpose. It's not just I'm on like a social media keyboard warrior. You're actually using the space to then, all right, you know, we have a few 100,000 followers. How can we make this into a tangible thing? And yeah, like with anti-conquista, that's what we do. We make it into funds and send it back home.
And I guess just to kind of, on the flip side of that, obviously what you're putting together obviously gets sent back home. What should we be doing more as a community for those that are here? Is there anything in that space?
Well, listen, hablando de social media, right now, there's a gap that I always get frustrated about, which is there's so much information in English that we can share for like younger generation, our generation to learn politically about. A lot of the time, I get this information, I think, you know what, oh man, I really want to send this to my mum, but there's nothing in Spanish. So anyone out there listening, if you're good on social media and you can make content please start translating stuff into Spanish so I can share it with my family because there's a gap there. Honestly,
Yeah.
you know, that language barrier. Well, okay, my mom speaks English and stuff, obviously, but
Are
sometimes
you talking about sort of British politics then?
no, both.
Okay.
Well, with my mom, it's more religion.
Okay.
So obviously, he's talking about Palestine and stuff like that. There's so much information in English. There's so much like progressive Christians online and stuff like that. But in Spanish, I can't find anything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But
It's like,
yes, they are.
but not as much as.
I need to send you. Oh my God! Yeah, there is they're both sides. And there is. I'm just remembering the outrageous ones. But there is very good progressive Christianism in Latin America.
Oh, you need to share that.
I need to send the link.
Search that.
Yes.
Liberation theology.
Yeah, it's a very good. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I mean is like TikTok shorts.
Okay. Yes. I used to do that. I used to do that. I know. I used to do it in Spanish. But like, I will say for like. The community is just organized for the community because solamente el pueblo va a salvar al pueblo. I do not expect nothing for the British government at all. In my head, they want to kill me, and they want us to disappear when we don't gonna be helpful with them anymore. That's why there's la reforma and all those things. Like they don't need us. They don't want migrants here anymore.
La reforma is the first time I've heard that. Have you?
La reforma, my Spanglish. But I would just say, like, you know, like nourish your community. Nourish your community. Start. It doesn't need to be like a collective. It doesn't mean anything. You just sit down and have honest conversations about politics without being judgmental. And that's it. Make sure that, you know, your sibling has a passport and you don't lose your nationality from back home so you can vote. Because you may think it's not important, but like most of the countries in Latin America, they have a big percentage of the people, the population that is outside of the country. So the diaspora vote, it is important and it has an effect. So I will just say that, like I will just say organize. I think so, like it's just organize. A big scale and a small scale in your family, like just organize.
Do you feel it's important for Latinos in the UK to vote in the UK as well with the UK elections?
Yes.
You?
I don't think so.
You just winced. Why?
Is this where we disagree?
I think so. It's important because it's a right, and I think the three of us, we like at some point Argentina didn't have democracy for so many years. So for me, growing up in Argentina, it's mandatory that you have to vote because people will look down to you if you don't vote. They will remind you that we have many years without democracy. And another thing as well, I know that maybe in this country and in any country, it depends who is you going to vote, is going to make an effect or not. I will say for me, like I vote because it's a right.
Yeah.
But I don't rely
No.
in that vote or in that government. The only thing that I do is just go and vote, and then I keep organizing within my community.
I think, that's important to emphasize that I think it should vote, but it shouldn't. Our political activities shouldn't be limited to just voting.
Yeah.
It has to be.
We need to expand it.
Yeah, alongside organizing the community, alongside building power in the community.
Yeah.
Rather than relying on politicians. Like what comes to mind right now is Zach Polanski and the Green Party, who I think I consider myself a socialist, which isn't the Green Party. Well, but they're starting to use socialist language and socialist ideas, and they're pro-immigrant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say also like I have my things with that because I'm strongly like, let's do for ourselves, let's build ourselves. Like we don't need people to like have pity on us and be like, oh, you know, these poor migrants, like, yeah, like the liberal Western idea of like, yeah, come, like, we'll welcome you here. And no, actually, we have a right to be here. Like,
Yeah.
The reason why we're here is because we've been pushed out of our country because of your country and their policies, their imperialist policies back home, right? So my thing is like, we have a right to be here, but I do appreciate politicians like Zach Polanski coming out and being like, no, we should be inclusive, we should include migrants, and we shouldn't have the same politics as reform. And so I do. So I would say, you know, vote for the Green Party, who I think are, I don't know.
So I completely agree with both of your points. The reason why I made that face is because, I mean, I do vote because it's my right to vote. I agree with democracy and representation, etc. So I do vote, but I've been so disillusioned with British politics for so long that I don't really care about it as much as I would say like politics back home. Since the first war in Iraq, I always said, I would never vote Labour my whole life. I've always been a Green Party voter. And in terms of our community and organising, we don't really have representation in Parliament. There's two, maybe I'm wrong, you can correct me, there's always been two politicians that show up to help us or to show up to our events that I always see. One's called George Galloway and the other one's called Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
Is there any of them?
Yeah.
I don't know about Galloway, but
No, he used to always.
Corbyn's always been involved.
Corbyn, yeah.
Corbyn,
I've seen
yeah.
him.
Galloway, I
many
used to see him all the time, maybe not now.
he has.
He has his times. Yeah, he has his times.
I'm not saying I would vote for him or agree with his politics, but what I'm saying is, when Jeremy Corbyn became the head of Labour and we had the chance to vote for Labour, that's the only time I've ever voted Labour. And look what happened. It's just disillusionment after disillusionment after disillusionment. And at the end of the day, most of the parties might want to change their domestic policies, but when it comes to international politics, they're all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've always voted great. I love what Zach's doing. I really do.
Yes.
And I would say, guys, go vote. At the end of the day, as being like Latinos in the UK, we might be able to change our circumstances a little bit by voting and stuff like that. But me personally, disillusioned with the whole thing.
So you mentioned two people there, and I guess that's the people that we see within our community, but also that we hear speaking about the politics as well, that we can actually, kind of see ourselves in, that could affect us or family back home. What are your thoughts on artists speaking on politics? You see that there's been a bit of a increase in that. Bad Bunny speaking about sort of, I guess the way that immigrants are treated. Do you feel that only politicians should be speaking about politics, or do you feel that these artists, because there has been instances where you have, for example, Residente, who always talks about politics and he has really good, things to put forward. But then on the flip side, you have someone like Nicky Jam, for example, that's, gone to a Trump rally. What are kind of your views on that? Because that, for me, the next generation, whoever's watching that, even the older generation, it skews their views. They then don't know, that they question or sort of go, to I guess, more negative.
Under capitalism, culture always becomes a commodity. So,
Yes.
But you're the artist. Like you
I'm not an artist.
You go, please.
I'm not an artist, first of all. I would say, all this is fun. It's fun to dance. I think so. Joy is important, and having a good time is important. But I don't think so. Again, like the same conversation, it's not going to give us any tangible change. Because at the end, if you say capitalism is part of culture is a commodity, these artists, they want money and they play within capitalism. They want fame, money, and it's just that, right? When I guess it's not working or making money anymore, these artists are not going to talk about that political topic anymore, right? It's just like that.
Yeah,
I don't
so
think
it
it's
kind of
fun.
comes and goes.
Comes and goes. I don't think so. Maybe it's important to politicize, romanticize a little bit for the younger generation, for a door to start the political journey. And I hopefully, after they open that door, they're gonna learn more and educate more themselves and make sure to be active members in the communities, to keep politicizing and to keep, alive the social movement. I think so music, joy, dancing is good to have within the social movement. It's amazing because we do need that energy. We need those moments to rest and to relax and to have fun. But it's like artists that they're so invested within the political system, the capitalist system, they're not going to bring us any justice.
Yeah.
I would add, on Bad Bunny, I don't think I'd come on a podcast and defend Bad Bunny. I think it's great. I understand the whole being a commercial thing and it's corporate read at the end of the day, people are making money and stuff. But in terms of, for us as Latinos, what he is giving us and some of the symbols that he's using helps to build that political consciousness that we were talking about. It's not, it's not to say that, he's, some kind of super radical that we should look to in terms of politicizing ourselves or or raising that consciousness where it needs to be. But he's given us, some guidance. Like
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, for example, with the independence, using the light blue flag,
Light blue
flag,
becoming independent from the US.
Yeah, but then Lady Gaga has support Israel openly.
That's the thing.
And then he signed the contract with the clause with Sarah, and there is a big campaign against Sarah because they support Israel. So
Yeah, exactly, and that's why we can't look to him.
yeah, that's why.
But we can, I think, use some of the stuff that
I think so. Yeah.
to help our people because it's so popular.
Yeah.
My students come to me and they're like, "Oh, did you see the Bad Bunny?"
Yeah. Did you see? And what did you think?
I thought it was great.
I liked
I
it.
thought it was great.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. But the thing is, again,
Art, it was good.
As art is good, we need to understand that he has a whole team. He works with a very talented PhD, I think so, Puerto Rican doctor. He's been working with him for 2 or 3 years to put all this concept. It's not only him. It's a whole machine that he has to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
I was too.
You know what the flag? That's the bit that I love. It goes,
I missed it.
I was like, did you see the Las Malvinas flag? He had Las Malvinas flag.
I was like, what?
She was like, what? She goes like, no, it's not Malvinas. I was so heartbroken. I was like, oh.
I was like, what? Let me research that. No, but I would say again, yes, it's a good resource to open the door, to open conversation, especially for young Latin American people, especially for them. Yes, especially for this Gen Z that they don't want to know nothing about politics, they don't want to listen to anything, they don't want to vote. It's very important for them to use as a tool as politicide.
And also, for example, the whole language thing. He refuses to sing in English.
Yeah.
For me, that's the same kind of thing that we were saying earlier, right? Like, we're doing things for ourselves. Like, not for the Western gaze, we're doing it for
He
ourselves.
stands true to that because he will refuse. And then he didn't tour, obviously, in the States, which was a big thing.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that we can look to and build on. Not to say exactly like he's not. Don't look to him as some political.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, no.
He's not.
But there's things that he does that we can build on.
Yeah, we can build on top of that. He's not a politician. No. He's not politician, and he's an artist, and he has a niche now that he find out maybe in 2 or 3 albums that he have. And that's that. And then we need to build on the top of that. And the music is great. Having fun is fun. It's what we need as well, that little break. But just to build a door, just to learn more about our politics.
He definitely brought that respite that we needed as Latinos with everything that was going on. But I think one of the, focuses that I wanted to have with you guys, and also the reason why I do this podcast, is to get that out there, that as Latinos, there are grassroots, there's places that you can go, things to get involved in, because sometimes people look at politics and they think ideology, voting, they're quite, limited to what they believe politics is. And sometimes some people aren't even open to have a proper conversation with two sides, and they're not open to engage in this way. Some people are scared, and I think in our community some people are scared to also voice their opinions, and because again they probably met with someone not respecting their opinion, or someone talking to them in a way that maybe they kind of shied away from that. So my final question for you guys would be, what advice would you give any young Latino that is here in the UK that is looking to get into politics, or has an interest in there, where you can kind of gather that confidence to go to some of these events that you're doing, or even talks, or even maybe they want to host their own things as well? Is there any advice that you'd give them?
I'll start. I would say the most important thing for me, I think, is to read on our history, to stay aware of what's happening back home, I think it's important for us living here in the diaspora, the belly of the beast, we should be informed about imperialism. Why are we here in the first place? What should we be doing so that the conditions that pushed us into exile, to push not just violence, but economic conditions. Why is Colombia underdeveloped? And what part did Britain play in underdeveloping our country, our economy, which they did play a part. I won't go into it, but historically,
That's another episode.
That's another episode.
Yeah, but in the whole region, in whole Latin America, in the whole Latin America.
The whole region. And so I'd say for me it's important for for young people to be aware of that. And I think that helps us ground our politics.
Yeah.
And then apart from that, join an organization.
Yeah, trade union, like the Feminist Assembly of Latin American Women. And again, when you say like learn our history, it doesn't need to be a humongous big book. You can go through TikTok, to Instagram, to podcasts, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. There is so many resources out there to learn about your history, your political history of your country. Or simple as like talk to your parents, talk to your family. Most likely they've been displaced.
What if someone's parents have one view and then you've got that generation that they're like, actually, I don't agree with what you're thinking or what you're saying? Is there have you come across that, or is there anything that you just, aside from learning your history and sort of grounding your own beliefs, but some people might be scared in terms of going, you were fine to rebel, you've always been fine to rebel, but, for someone that might have that sort of situation at home.
I have a really Uribista uncle. And my attitude to my uncle is, let's not talk about politics, but we do end up talking about, something without the ideology, right? Without talking about socialism, capitalism, or whatever it is. And then you end up realizing that actually we have things in common. Like we want to progress and stuff, but the ideological stuff.
I never thought I'd ever hear you say that.
No, I've learned, and that's part of your maturity too. Back in the day, I wouldn't hang out with my uncle.
No,
I was hanging out with him and his wife the other day at a party, and we were getting on fine, talking about, I guess it's being open, and as we were saying before, like being empathetic. Like I would say that a lot of the views that they have is because of ignorance, but find commonalities.
Yeah,
I would say two things. For any young person, Latino in the UK that's thinking about getting into politics or anything like that, I would say learn from our mistakes.
Sometimes that never happens.
But so the biggest mistakes that I believe that we made was one, we didn't really make the mistake, but just understand that your activism shouldn't be based on sectarianism. So if your activism is based on helping our community and you want to help our community, it should be everyone in the community. It shouldn't be based on ideology. So, because they're right wing, I don't want to help them. No, it should be open to everyone. Okay. Actually, that often changes people's minds and points of views and skews them towards what you're trying to promote anyway. Okay. So that's number one. And number two, understand that no one's perfect. So if someone is left center, for example, and you're fully left wing, understand that they might contribute to what you're trying to do, and don't push them out. Small change is better than no change at all. And I think we made that mistake when we were younger, where we were very ideologically driven, where we would push a lot of people away, when I feel like learn from our mistake. Don't do that. That doesn't mean let liberals change your message. No, it just means that sometimes you might need to include people in order to push something and to make tangible change for the future.
I'm going to add to that. Small change makes the difference. And I think sometimes people go into politics thinking they're going to make a massive change, but sometimes it's the small things that we can do that lead to the bigger change, and don't get put off because it's done in steps. There's a whole journey that we've got pretty much in our lives, and those that follow us as well.
100%. Don't let things slide as well. Oftentimes in our community, we might just walk past something and ignore it. This is something I've learned from the younger generation, where we especially in a workplace, we were conditioned to just listen, play the game, do this, do that. Younger generations are more out there and be like, no, I'm not going to have that. And I think I agree with
calling it out.
Yeah, calling it out when it happens straight away, especially within our own communities. Like recently, I won't go into too much detail, but I learned of someone that was here sin papeles, and they were being exploited by our own community, where they were working cash in hand and they weren't getting paid. Because who's it going to turn to? The police?
Yeah.
people that were born and raised here, we have a certain power and privilege that we can use to help people like this. So don't turn a blind eye to it and do what you can to help.
Perfect. Well, guys, this is the first episode of On Politics, but I hope to have you all again because I think there's definitely lots of things that we can kind of deep dive. So if you're open to it, please.
You got my number.
Thank you so much. To your cafe.